All right, welcome back. Brad Michaels here, Dolphin Radio, Dolphin TV, joined by Rodney Quick, one of our new co-hosts this year. John is actually busy down in Miami today and was not able to join us with some late notice. I am actually in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, ready to go to the home opener with John on Sunday, and was planning to come at you guys today live from Bow Campers here on the Intercoastal Waterway, but I am actually stuck in my hotel room because it is pouring outside. It is that time of the season, or that time of the year. It is hurricane season. Rodney joining us today. How's everything going? Are you excited about Sunday?
Oh yeah, I'm stoked about Sunday. I try to be, fired up every off season. When we get into training camp after the draft for the next season, sometimes it's a little tougher than others. But I gotta admit, I haven't been this excited in several years about the direction the team seems to be going in. They gave our quarterback Tua all the weapons he needs to succeed. Now there's no more excuses.
There's absolutely no excuses. And, about a couple of months ago, I was able to meet Dan Marino out in Las Vegas at an event. And I asked him the same question. I said, basically, this is a make or break season. And Dan's excited about what Tua does bring to the table. Said that his accuracy was something that, like he's never seen before. But then again, we also notice that the accuracy isn't there on some of the longer throws. You go back to 2 weeks ago in the final preseason game. Okay, the opening play was a 51-yard bomb to Tyreek Hill, but it was about 4 yards underthrown. Tyreek had to come back to it and ended up making a spectacular shoestring catch. That is going to be a problem unless they figure out maybe some various crossing patterns, some quick ins or outs that are going to be shorter, and let the speedy guys, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, just turn on the afterburners after the catch.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, with that pass to Tyreek Hill, you're right. Tyreek had to come back for that that pass. It wasn't like he caught it in stride deep down the field. And the crossing routes seem to work really well for Tua. Look at the Carolina game last year, I believe. The one he hit Jalen Waddle on that went for, I think, at least 50 yards. That was beautifully thrown. And he does have a very accurate, arm, but the further away he gets from the line of scrimmage, the scarier it gets, for him to complete a pass. I mean, only time's going to tell. We're definitely going to see Tyreek and Jalen to make some plays after they catch the ball.
Yeah, and we're going to find out very quick, I think, on Sunday. I'm kind of wondering, though, you come out in the preseason finale, and we never showed a whole lot in the preseason, which is a good thing. Mike McDaniel doesn't want to show his entire offense. You don't want to spill your candy in the lobby. But do you think that the 51-yard pass in the final preseason game, do you think that was a little bit maybe of a mental game to tell Bill Belichick, hey, look, you have no idea what we might hit you with come Sunday opening day, but we're going to come out and maybe do a little bit more pounding the ball on the ground?
Quite possibly. I mean, if he was trying to make maybe a statement that he can go down the field with that pass, I don't think it worked really well. But I think we are a much more balanced offense this year with Raheem Mostert. He's got fresh legs after only playing one game last year. He looks healthy. In the preseason when he played, he looked really good. He had good burst. Chase Edmonds is a really fast, nifty runner as well. Gaskin is not that great of a runner, but he's very good at catching the ball out of the backfield. We still have Gesicki at tight end, although I don't think that he's going to, catch as many balls as he did maybe the last couple of years. But the one guy that could be the X factor in this passing game is Cedric Wilson, because everyone's thinking, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, the two fast guys down the field, you got to guard that. Cedric Wilson's a hell of a slot receiver.
Well, and when you get him out there lined up in the slot and you get him, coming over the middle, on a linebacker most of the time, or a safety having to come up, it's going to create problems. They're going to have to answer that because let's say you're shutting down, you're shutting down Hill, you're shutting down Waddle. Obviously, that's going to open Wilson up.
Yeah.
He's going to burn you. He's going to make you toast, and you're going to have to bring somebody up now to cover him, 2 guys to cover him, which is then that's going to open up either Waddle or Tyreek.
Exactly.
So it's going to be, and I think this is an interesting matchup. And obviously, I mean, the schedule makers, they didn't. This was a gift basically handed to them, that a brand new, young, offensive-minded coach, some say a genius offensive coach in Mike McDaniel, coming into Miami after a surprise firing of Brian Flores. Now, after a tumultuous offseason, mainly tumultuous up until we hired McDaniel to come in, due to the fact that, Brian Flores seemed like he didn't play ball really with the front office. And the front office and a lot of people within the organization wanted to see him go. We both talked about that when that happened. We had a show about that. John was joining us that day as well, and then the Torres lawsuit hit. Tell me your thoughts moving forward now, and finding out some of the things that we found out. Are you excited that change happened? The players seem to love Mike McDaniel?
Yeah, I mean, what's done is done. We can't change it. It was going to happen. I feel bad for Brian Flores because I think in the end of the day, he did get a raw deal.
Yeah.
But like I said, what's done is done. I think a lot of the players liked and respected him. I know he didn't have a good relationship with Tua, and the quarterback is the guy on every team that you're supposed to make happy. And that's what, Stephen Ross did. He made him happy. And I really don't know what else to say. I mean, I feel bad for Brian Flores. I wish him well in Pittsburgh, except for that game when we play, against them, because I thought he was a really, really good coach. He did some things that no coach has ever been able to do, sweeping New England like we did, and first back-to-back winning seasons in 20 years. So, I mean, but I'm ready to move on. Mike McDaniel has a lot of energy. He says a lot of the right things. He's got a little bit of comedic relief in it, so things aren't too uptight. And I'm excited to see, this team go forward. We did everything we could to build a better team in the offseason. And, kudos to Chris Greer for the way he managed the money. We added a lot of pieces on offense, which cost money. Still were able to keep almost the entire starting defense together.
And that was huge. Now, I'm going to bring this up, though. Nagging injuries, and we're going to, we got to come to, Byron Jones. He's on the PUP. Not going to be eligible for the first 4 games. It might not hurt us too bad against the Patriots. I don't see that they have any receiver weapons that we can't contain with the guys that we have on the field, and probably the same goes in week 2. Yeah. But you come in and send you end up into Cincinnati. You got to play them. It's going to get tough. This could end up being a little bit of a quandary. We may see a little bit of a problem. And here we go again to what we were talking about before the show. There's these, and I know Byron Jones, I know that's not a nagging injury. I get it. That's a serious injury he's overcoming. But we have had year in and year out, we have had nagging injuries all along both sides of the ball where we don't have our full roster playing at full strength. So that's one of the reasons why the Dolphins have been stuck in mediocrity. And then it's the turnover. It's, we had, you go through Nick Saban, you go through Cam Cameron, you go through, Tony Sperano, the Sleepy Joe. And by that, I mean Sleepy Joe Philbin, not Sleepy Joe in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And then, to the head Gase and Adam Gase. I mean, and then Brian Flores. And it seems to me that in the building, at least, it seems like there's an awful lot of people that are kind of relieved that Flores is gone. but it was also as a former player. I can't think of his name now. Albert Wilson. He said it was like walking on eggshells in the building every single day with Flores there. You had to walk down the right side of the hallway. You had to be in single file. To me, some of that type of stuff, I don't know if it's griping, but to be that specific about it, obviously it was something that the players had to deal with. It had to have been. I mean, you're telling me you got to march in single file. That's kind of like grade school type stuff. So,
Yeah.
John says, though, a lot of people that wanted to criticize Flores and say good riddance, blah, 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 blah. It's like, look, you guys all asked for the Patriot way. You got the Patriot way, and now you want to piss and moan about having the Patriot way. It was because it didn't work here.
Yeah.
But do you think so? We got McDaniel coming in now. He's going up against, and I hate to say this, it's the young gun, and I probably typed that wrong. Actually, thank you, Bobby, our producer. He got that fixed in the ticker down there. Do you think the young gun is going to school the master Sunday?
I think he's going to beat the master. I don't know if he's going to school him, because I don't know if you school a guy as seasoned and as great as Bill Belichick has been. Personally, I don't like the guy, but you can't take away his accomplishments. I don't know if he's going to school him. I think he's going to beat him, and I think it's just a simple game of mathematics. We have far more talent on our team overall than the Patriots do, and we got far more talent at skilled positions than they're going to be able to handle.
What would you say, barring, obviously we talked about Byron Jones being on PUP. How do you like our opening roster? Defense pretty much intact from last year, a couple of nice additions. The offensive, a lot of nice additions. The offense is completely rolled over. 12 new players, 13 new players. Did we do enough addressing the offensive line?
I know a lot of people were saying that they wanted us to sign J.C. Treader, and I thought that was a great idea to sign him if we could have got him, and we still could have. He ended up retiring, but the fact that we passed on him as well as every other team with his resume
says a lot. It says where he was probably.
Yeah, the knees must have been worse than any of us thought, so it's probably a good move that we didn't invest in him. My big question mark is Conor Williams at center. I've heard characteristically that he's not very good as a center. I have a guy I work with who's a Dallas Cowboys fan, huge, and he said that on the Cowboys, they tried to experiment with him at center, and it didn't work very well. And he got bullied around a little bit. So I'm thinking we maybe could have worked with Michael Dieter a little more and moved Conor Williams over, and that would have gave us another quality, lineman, which was what we need. I'm a little scared about Austin Jackson as well.
I have to tell you, I'm glad you brought that up, because, I was not a big Austin Jackson fan, obviously, last year. Neither is John. And certainly John's son, who, John has always said, my kid knows when they're going to be a bust and when they're going to be great, and said that Austin Jackson was a bust. Now, obviously, we know he's a bust over on the left side of the line, but Jackson, supposedly from the reports that I've seen and some of what I've actually seen on film from preseason, he bulked up. He looks better than I've ever seen. He has been studying a lot more, studying the game, studying studying his gaps, studying his footwork, studying his handwork. He's been doing an awful lot of work, and he has decided that mentally he has decided that it is time, and he is ready to step up to the plate, so to say, and show people that he does belong in the National Football League and that he's not a bust, although he'll be proving it over on another side of the offensive line.
Yeah, I think this is a final audition for him this year to prove
without
that
a doubt,
he deserves to play in this league. And I think the same might be true for Liam Eichenberg. I know it's his second year, but he was not.
Eichenberg, though, I got to give Eichenberg. I got to say, we got to give him at least one more year, because you got to think look what that kid had to put up with last year. He has short arms. He's a guard for a reason.
Yeah.
He is not a left tackle, but because Austin Jackson was so horrible on the left side of the line, they had to move Eichenberg over there, and it was a big improvement. But he still struggled because of the arm length. So you move him back inside to his natural position. We got, Teron Armstead. He's there to take over that left tackle position and let Jackson sit over there. Now he is now protecting to his blind side. So that brings us to another guy that's make or break for you this year, Tua. It's Tua time, or it might be, dare I say, Lamar Miller time?
Lamar Jackson.
Or Lamar Jackson. Because he's already told the Ravens, I'm not negotiating with you. I said I wasn't going to negotiate as of Friday. He's not negotiating with him. He's planning to play out his contract. Bobby's going to join us here in a little while for some fantasy football picks. Before the show, while we were waiting to come on the air with you, we were talking about that situation with Lamar. And Bobby seems to think that the Ravens, the reason they weren't ready to really lock him down as their franchise quarterback, and I know that John Harbaugh has come out today and he said, well, I envision Lamar Jackson being a longtime quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. Well, that's coach speak. That's what you say when you don't want to piss this guy off anymore, and he's already pissed off going into week one.
Yep.
But in my opinion, that does make sense, but it's also what Bobby was saying before the show. NFL defenses have figured this guy out. He doesn't actually, if you look at him, he doesn't exactly have the greatest arm. He made things happen with his legs and by extending plays, and then he could throw it to finish off the play. But he never really lit the scoreboards up just based on his arm strength.
Well, if you look at our first year with Brian Flores on opening day when we played the Ravens and they destroyed us 50-something to nothing in Flores' first game, Lamar lit us up deep down the field. The Hollywood Brown, he lit us up down the field all day long, and he was known for having a really good arm as well as legs in college. And I think he's still got every bit the arm that he has.
But I got to go back to that opening day roster 2019. We might as well have fielded a high school team. That's how bad that roster was. That we won 5 games that season I'll give a lot of credit to Coach Flores for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody with a half an arm, I probably could have lit up that secondary, and I'm 57 years old.
I would have paid to say that.
So, look, it's time for Tua to stand out or be tossed out.
Yeah, exactly. And I was reading something earlier, and I'll just say I think there's nothing wrong with Lamar's arm strength and down the field. Plus, the fact that he can run the ball. I mean, look at Kyler Murray. He throws the ball well down the field. He runs it. Having a quarterback that's a dual threat. Watch out for Malik Willis in Tennessee. He might end up taking Tannehill's job. But there's nothing wrong with his arm. And I was reading a report earlier that since Lamar would not sign the extension, they did not get him the new deal before the season started. He is not going to negotiate till next offseason. The Miami Dolphins are considered the second favorite next to the Ravens, of course, to land him in the offseason. So when you hear
it's all going to boil down to does Tua get it? Does he get it done? Does he make it happen? Do we go to the playoffs, or is he the human potato chip again? Okay. Well, and then if that happens, if he misses any extended period of time, okay, I'm talking about 2 games or more.
Exactly.
You're going to start hearing all this Lamar talk.
Yep. But if he shows he's a tough guy and he can take us through a 17-game season and we can get into the playoffs, I think all the Lamar talk will be hushed up. But you're right. If he misses any more time, like 2 games, 3 games, whatever it is, it's just going to prove what people already think, that he's not durable. He can't make it through a season. And then you're going to really hear the Lamar Jackson chatters next year.
Oh, well, you're going to start hearing it just like we heard about Deshaun Watson almost every single week last year. If Tua starts to struggle, look out, because the Lamar Jackson, it's going to. Here's something that I thought was a little interesting, and I know that Mike McDaniel, he has said that, well, we're gonna line up the right guy for the right job, no matter whatever the situation is, the right guys are going to be in that situation. And I get that, and that's the philosophy that he has coming out of the coaching tree that he comes out of. But seriously, your star wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, is going to be back returning punts. Is that a typo?
I'm hoping that's a typo, because if not, it's a big mistake-o. Because if that guy gets hurt on returning a punt, which has never happened to him in all his career, but now watch. I don't want to jinx nothing, but it's a bad idea. Jalen Waddle shouldn't be doing it. And as far as I'm concerned, Javon Holland shouldn't even be doing it.
No, and he's returning the kickoffs.
Injuries, injuries, potential for an injury that shouldn't even happen. You got plenty of other guys. Let Mostert return. He's fast. Let him do it. You got Trent Sheffield.
Exactly. Well, and it only I'm gonna bring this up because we all had so much hope and promise. I can't remember. We got Preston Williams. We found him right in 2020. Was that? Or was it 2019?
I think it was 19.
All right, because here's what happened with him. Look at all the promise of that young man. I thought he was going to be the next great wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins. He is returning a punt, tears his ACL, and he's never been the same since.
Nope. And that's what scares me about this. What if Tyreek goes down with an injury, significant injury, returning punts, there goes our receiving game. People right now are fearing our passing game, even with Tua, because of the weapons he has. You take away the cheetah, we're going to be one-dimensional in that game with Waddle.
Well, and think about that, though. They not only fear our run game, our passing game, but because they fear our passing game so much, it's going to make them fear our run game, because with Mostert and everybody else, we've got that backfield. This is a scary team.
Yes.
It's all going to boil down to, again, though, it always does, and I'll say this all the time, how good are we up front? Because if we can't run block and we can't pass block, it's going to be a long season. It always is.
I mean, I know it was preseason, but the pass protection in the highlights that I saw, and I didn't get to see any one of the preseason games complete, the pass protection seemed to be holding up pretty decent. I didn't see.
Well, we have a much better offensive line coach now. We don't have Pepe Le Pew over there anymore.
Yeah. I didn't see any instances where we got hammered. And, one other thing I'll say is, I'm a lot more confident in the backup quarterback position should Tua go down. I mean, Jacoby Brissett was a lame duck back there. He couldn't get out of his own way. Bridgewater can run. He can pass. I know he didn't have great numbers in preseason, not like Skylar Thompson. But even if Skylar Thompson were to be in there, I know he was playing against second and third teamers, but the kid was poised. I was very impressed by him.
I was very impressed with Skylar Thompson. As a matter of fact, I was very, very ecstatic, to be honest with you, when I saw that he made the 53-man roster, because if we had cut him and just crossed our fingers that we were going to be able to sign him to the practice squad, he was gone. Somebody was going to snatch that kid up, no doubt.
Absolutely. Don't you get one person on the practice squad, though, that you can designate untouchable?
You know what? I can't even touch that one, because I don't know. You would think it would be a rookie, especially a rookie that you drafted, that you could say, no, he's untouchable. But I know that every newspaper, every article that I read, anything that I read about Skylar Thompson said that we were opening him up to being picked up by somebody else. So
absolutely,
obviously that's not the case. If that is the case, it's got to be somebody that you've already had on your practice squad that you can say, no, he's still just designated to our practice squad. He didn't make the final roster. I want to talk real quick about our matchups heading into Sunday's game, and then we can come back to that also near the end, because it's probably, we might have some differing opinions once we hear from Bobby Blackjack on our fantasy picks for the week. But what do you think is the best matchups in the game against the Patriots on Sunday?
Oh, the best matchup. As far as stopping the Patriots?
On both sides of the ball. What do you think we look like matched up our offense versus their defense, and then vice versa?
I think we match up extremely well against their pass defense. I mean, it seems like the best guy in their pass defense is 34, 35-year-old with Devin McCourty. They don't have J.C. Jackson anymore. They got some decent corners back there, but with the offensive weapons we have at receiver, you can't double everybody. And I think as long as Tua gets decent protection and Matt Judon doesn't have his way with Austin Jackson and absolutely kill Tua, I think that's the best matchup for us. I think we're going to do really well in the passing game. And it wouldn't shock me if both Tua and Jalen Waddle really lighted up both of them.
Well, and we know that Tua and Waddle had that relationship that gelled last year. And of course, they're former college teammates. Everything everybody heard about and talked about this year, though, with Waddle nursing a nagging injury that nobody wants to talk about. We have no idea really what's going on with that. But you have Tyreek Hill, and that's been the talk about how Tyreek has been able to really bond with Tua and get that confidence level built up between the two of them. So you got a double-edged sword. You got Tua with Waddle, and now you got Tua and a relationship built with Tyreek Hill in a very short period of time. It's going to be dangerous, which is another reason, Coach McDaniel, if you're watching, no punt returns for Tyreek.
Yeah, please listen to that. Absolutely. Why not put Myles Gaskin on punt returns? He's not going to get a lot of carries.
Or Salvon Ahmed, somebody.
Yes. Ahmed is one of the key Dolphins. It's questionable for Sunday.
And here we go again. Nagging injuries. Of course, okay, so it's depth, but you need that depth because you never know in this game. I mean, you can trip over the 50-yard line. So, all right, how do we match up Miami's defense versus the Patriots offense?
Our defense, with the exception of Nick Needham playing for Byron Jones, I think is stout and stellar. And like you touched on earlier, I don't think they got any real burners that are going to really, expose Nick Needham for being more than a nickelback or dimeback. But I think the pass rush can get to Mac Jones because their offensive line is very questionable. Patriots, they're also very questionable for the game is their offensive tackle, Isaiah Wynn. They also have Jacoby Myers is questionable. They're one of their number one receiver. He's questionable for the game. That means Devontae Parker.
The Miami defensive line needs to tee off on them, and Mac Jones needs to be laying on his back most of the day.
Well, I think they're gonna. We got so many good pass rushers. Jalen Phillips, Agba.
It's a never-ending roster of defensive guys that could come after the quarterback.
Oh yeah, and the depth to keep our defense fresh is really solid. You got Zach Seiler. You got Melvin Ingram is actually on the depth chart ahead of Andrew Van Ginkel, which I was a little surprised. But Van Ginkel's questionable too because of his appendectomy.
I'm not so surprised about that, given Melvin Ingram's pedigree.
Yeah,
I think that the reason a lot of people would have thought that he would have been behind Van Ginkel would have been because of the age factor. But let's face it, Melvin Ingram, he can still bring it.
I mean, he's not by any means done. Even at 33, no. And he needs to be respected because, like you said, his pedigree. And then in the secondary, I mean, Xavier Howard. Enough said. I think we might have the best safety tandem in the league in Brandon Jones and.
Well, I think if we get Byron Jones back healthy, I think we've got probably the best secondary in the AFC, if not the entire NFL.
Well, yeah, because you got to throw in the depth that we have there: Nick Needham, Eric Rowe. If you need to call him up from the practice squad, Verone McKinley, Javon Holland's old college teammate, who is very, very good. And he'd be a guy I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody pluck off the practice squad because I think he's going to be a good safety if he gets a chance to play. I just hope we don't lose him.
Well, I want to go ahead and move on right now. This is going to be very interesting. We are going to start this season with our fantasy corner. So we're going to bring in Bobby Blackjack from Blackjack TV. He's also our producer on the show. He's also with Surge Sports. Bobby, welcome to Dolphin Radio. First time for you to be on with us. How are you today?
Hey guys, how you doing today? Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you, and we hear a lot of great things about your fantasy acumen.
Yeah, I'm pretty intense with it. Yeah, I do a lot of studying, and part of the advantages of having, like, I guess, the careers that we have and our jobs is, like, I have a lot of time to research and stuff. So I kind of use that to my advantage sometimes in my leagues. Like I'll start on Tuesday night, getting up at 3:00 in the morning when the waivers turn over. So I start getting those guys early. When the rosters open up for the upcoming week.
So what do you got for us this week? And I don't want you to break it down necessarily yet as far as just Dolphin players. We can come back to Dolphins later unless they've made your starting roster regardless. So what if lining up, not counting last night's game, lining up for Sunday and then Monday night, what are you looking at?
I mean, I'm looking at, again, you mentioned last night, I mentioned to you off air that I actually, in one of my leagues, I had the tandem of Allen and Diggs, and did extremely well, obviously. So what I'm looking for now,
66-2?
66-2, I'm leading the one game, having those two guys last night. What I'm looking for this week in particular, now we've had the craziest offseason in the history of the NFL with all the changes and who went where and whatnot. For example, Devontae Adams was your number one wide receiver probably the last 2 years or so. With Aaron Rodgers throwing to him. Now he's in Las Vegas. He's in your hometown now.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be really interesting to see how that dynamic plays out, because like everybody knows, him and Derek Carr played college ball together, and they've wanted this for quite a while.
Yes. Well, and not only, I don't know, did you hear the story? There was an article yesterday that he was talking about how they almost died together in a rafting incident when they were still in college.
No, I didn't hear that. So, yeah, those guys obviously have a bond.
Very big bond.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in football, and especially fantasy football, because I've actually, in a few of the leagues that I'm in, people actually drafted Derek Carr. He was never a big quarterback to draft in the past.
That's a big pick, and there goes that that relationship with Devontae Adams. So, but that's still, to me, I don't know. That's a little bit of a stretch because there's so many people, like you said. I mean, I'm from Vegas. There's a lot of people out there do not like Derek Carr whatsoever. Don't think he's the guy that's ever going to get it done.
And one thing, Brad and Rodney, now that you're on our platform here and whatnot. Since we're on Facebook and we'll be on your YouTube channel next week, we do allow fans to check in. So our very first comment is from our own Kurt Valenti from K&K Sports here on Surge Sports. He's a big Broncos fan, and I'm actually in Kurt's league, and I stole Russell Cook from him. So I stole Russell Cook and Cortland Sutton in his league. So Kurt's mad at me right now. But then again, Broncos
hey, as a Broncos fan, he should be extremely ecstatic that the Broncos picked up, I don't know, that quarterback guy. What's his name? Russell Wilson, I think is his name.
Yeah, I heard he's okay.
Not too bad. I heard he's not too bad. He's not too shabby. Actually, his wife's pretty hot too.
Thanks, Kurt, for checking in. But yeah, he's mad at me because I stole both players from him. But he's right though, because that's another situation you want to look at where new players are switching around. Russell Wilson in Denver opens up a lot for Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and then a lot of things I read in the offseason has their running back, Williams, being the best running back in the league. But then again, you have Melvin Gordon still sitting there. Another thing to look at. Jaguars, for example, new coach. Peterson. Peterson's down there. So you're thinking that the quarterback opens up a little bit more this year, has a little bit better season than he had last year. But I'm looking at
Travis Etienne is back as well. Remember Travis Etienne?
Yes. I'm looking at Travis Etienne.
Missed the whole season.
Exactly. I'm looking at Travis Etienne to see how he does, because he was supposed to be this dynamic two-way back that, like I said, didn't play last year.
Exactly. Yeah.
Packers Vikings. I believe now Stephon Diggs had a great night last night. Cooper Kupp had a very good night. But I still believe the number one receiver in football now is going to be Justin Jefferson for the Vikings. And I've even seen people draft Kirk Cousins, because you always want that double dip, right? You want to have the quarterback and the receiver together.
Well, because if you get the touchdown between teammates, you get 12
ways.
points right there. Boom.
So in one league I actually drafted Pat Mahomes first. We'll get to him. And we also drafted Aaron Rodgers because he was sitting there. No one was taking him because, all right, who's he throwing to this year? Watch out for Aaron Jones.
In my opinion, if it's Aaron Rodgers is sitting there, he's going to throw to somebody. So
exactly.
He's Aaron Rodgers. You got to take him.
Exactly. Watch out for Aaron Jones, the running back, to become more of a pass-off guy and get 100-something receptions this year.
Yeah, easily. I see that.
Again, Giants, Titans, you got to wait and see. I think the Titans are on their way down. But Derrick Henry can still
I think they overachieved for several years, and I think they're going to be on some hard times this year.
Losing A.J. Brown was a huge thing for them.
Speaking of A.J. Brown, great pickup there, Rodney. A lot of people are saying Jalen Hurts is going to be a super stud in fantasy this year because of the fact that he has now A.J. Brown and he has Devontae Smith, the Heisman from 2 years ago, now with a decent running game, a rebuilt defense. So Philadelphia can make some noise this year.
Yeah, I was very interested to see that there's a lot of people out there that are experts way more than I am picking the Eagles to win the NFC East. And I kind of see that. I don't see any other team. The Giants aren't ready to step up, obviously. The Commanders, they're a little ways away. But I didn't realize that there's so many people out there disrespecting the Cowboys this year.
I got to tell you, though, I live in Pennsylvania, and there's just general interest really in the Eagles year after year after year. But this year, since they got A.J. Brown, there's a lot more Eagle fans in the area I'm in talking about it.
Yeah,
it's become
they're the talk of the town. They're the talk of the league. So there's something going on there because I really thought, this is the last go around. I know you're going to get to the Cowboys. This is the last go around for Ezekiel Elliott in Dallas, most likely, barring he rushes for 2,500 yards or something.
I agree.
And then everybody's got to wonder what's going on with Dak Prescott. There's a lot of problems in Dallas, in Jerry's world. But still, the whole Philadelphia thing really surprised me.
No, exactly. And again, that game should be fascinating because how does Tom Brady return? Now, there's a little turmoil in his life now. First time in 20 years, a little turmoil in his personal life. How does that?
Yeah, him and things are a little tense between him and Giselle. So
yeah. So does that affect him? I don't know. The old line's busted up.
Yeah,
but it's, so we'll see what happens there. Cowboys, same thing with the O-line, right? Chiefs Cardinals should be interesting because Chiefs are now minus Tyreek Hill. How does that affect Pat Mahomes and throwing the ball, right?
It's going to affect them an awful lot. But I will say this though, I was shocked in a vote. I was listening to NFL radio. In a vote by most football writers, Arizona did not get one vote to finish first place in the NFC West. Not one.
Yeah, I noticed that in a lot of the articles I've been reading the past couple of days. I love reading like the predictions and stuff, right? Get my own for my own opinion, obviously, but I like to see what everybody else kind of says. And yeah, right. Cardinals, between their back-to-back collapses in late season, the past 2 seasons, you got Hopkins on suspension, right, for 6 games. DeAndre Hopkins. That's gonna hurt them. Chase, again, getting back to the Dolphins, Chase Edmonds was a good second running back for that team to complement Conor. He's now with you guys in down in Miami. And who knows what's gonna happen there in Cardinals land. So a lot of wow, I'm looking here, 100 degrees when that game kicks off, 4:00 on Sunday in Arizona.
Oof. Yeah.
Ouch.
It's brutal. I mean, living in Vegas and everybody's like, well, how can you handle the heat? And it's not that bad. It is, it's a dry heat, but 100 degrees and playing football and running around, you're going to be winded by the middle of the second quarter. I don't care who you are. It's tough.
Exactly. Now, getting back to your Dolphins to finish off, this is what I'm looking for this week, especially, again, new players, new coach. Is Tua the real deal, like you guys mentioned in your show? Does he have the arm strength to go downfield with Tyreek Hill, Cedric Wilson? And I'm curious to know how are they going to use the running backs, because you got Myles Gaskin. I had him on my team last year. He stunk, and the 1 or 2 games you didn't play him, he was great, right? The usual Murphy's Law of fantasy football. Another person you want to look out for, I think, is going to have a down year, is Gesicki. Now, is he going to be a blocker this year, or is he going to be an outlet? We don't know.
I mean, when it comes to Mike Gesicki, I think that a lot is being overblown. I know that Mike McDaniel comes in, that offense, a lot of blocking assignments fall to the tight end, and I get that, but I think at the end of the day, not only did you keep Gesicki, we didn't trade him to anybody. He is number 1 on the depth chart. McDaniel's not stupid. He knows that Gesicki's strength is catching the ball. So I got a feeling you're going to see a lot of different sets instead of him lined up, tight and blocking. I got a feeling that they're going to do a quick block and then you get on your route.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to get his fair share of touches because people are going to focus on Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So that's
and then you're going to need that's when you're going to need Cedric Wilson and Mike Gesicki to start opening it up and targeting them. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting. You're going to watch some drift. You're going to watch them drift the lineman over, little fancy footwork, maybe some stunts, stuff like that. But it's going to be interesting.
Ronnie, you had a good point there because Ronnie had a good point because Waddle, I had him last year as well in the league, and he did very well towards the second half of the season. He was like almost very dominant.
He was unstoppable.
How they divide the passes up between 2 alpha wide receivers will be interesting to see.
It's a nice problem to have.
Oh yeah,
finally,
right? Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for having me again. We'll see you guys next week.
We will definitely see you next week, right back here for the fantasy corner.
All right.
All right. So, Rodney, I want to wrap this thing up.
Okay.
First of all, I want to talk about predictions for Sunday, and then I want to blow that out for our outlook, your outlook, and then my outlook on the Dolphins overall for the season.
You want a game prediction?
Game prediction first.
Okay. Well, Belichick. I mean, the talent level is, I think, highly in Miami's favor, but it's Bill Belichick and the Patriots against the Dolphins. Very storied rivalry. He's pretty much owned us with the exception of the last couple of years. So I think he's going to get enough out of his players to keep it close for a while. But I think in the end, we're going to win somewhere around 31-20.
Well, Belichick always brings a good game plan against the Dolphins. And anytime it's a division rivalry, it can go either way. And it doesn't matter whether it's the season opener, the home opener. It doesn't matter. Look at the Rams last night. Rams just looked completely befuddled by the Buffalo Bills. And this is the defending champions, which really they returned most of that Super Bowl winning team came back. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think that Miami is going to step out of this game. I think they're going to shock the Patriots. But when they shock the Patriots, they're only going to shock them by getting up maybe a touchdown or two, maybe a touchdown and a field goal. And the Patriots are going to regroup because that's what they do under Bill Belichick. And they're going to come back. And they're going to make this a very tight, close game at the end. And Miami, with the advantage of Waddle and Tyreek Hill, are going to somehow end up with the ball last. And we're going to go down and either kick a field goal to win it, score a touchdown to win it, or at least go down there and run the timeout and kick a field goal or score a touchdown to seal the game and play keep away. But it's going to be tight. It's going to be close right to the very end, but the Dolphins will pull it out. Now, my season prediction for the Dolphins, people are probably, and I can see the comments will probably be coming in, especially on next week's show after what I'm about to say. All right, I do wear, I wear Dolphins colors. I've been a Dolphins fan since 1970, probably 1970, 71. So my whole life pretty much been consumed with Miami Dolphin football. Over the past 20 years, though, the Dolphins have been stuck in mediocrity. And until I see it change, I'm not going to get overly excited with a new coaching regime. Even though a lot of the players have stayed, the players seem to be excited, but it's like Mike Gesicki said. He said, we have a very talented roster. On paper, we are very talented. We are very good on paper. But we have to put it on the field, and we have to get that winning record. We have to put it all together on Sundays and show that the talent that we see in the building every single day and in practice is as good as it should or could be. So Las Vegas has the Dolphins right now at an over and under for total wins on the season of 7.5. Now I'm going to go over because we have the talent, but I'm still saying I think this team in a 17-game season is 10-7 or 11-6 at best. We have a tough schedule. We have nagging injuries.
I was just going to say the same thing. I was going to say the same exact records that you just did. And the reason being is we got 9 wins with Brian Flores last year with a very mediocre, offense, not a lot of weapons on there, not a lot of talent around there. The upgrades that we made should get us 1 to 2 wins more at least.
Yeah. And the intangible on this, I like everything that I've seen about Coach McDaniel so far. He says all the right things. The players love him, or so it seems. But you know what? You always have that honeymoon. And if things go south, especially if they go south very, very quick, well, we saw what happened to Cam Cameron. We ran his ass out of town. The players ran his ass out of town. Okay, now granted, a lot of the players, Jason Taylor has even admitted it, and Zach Thomas said the same thing. We knew the first time we met Coach Cameron that was not going to happen. He no good. Okay, so Cameron lost his locker room very early. Mike McDaniel, he has his locker room. Larry Zonka has said, and actually said, that Mike McDaniel reminds him of a very young Don Shula. Well, that's an awful lot of praise, but it's also an awful lot of pressure to put on a first time. I mean, Shula came in, he'd already had success in Baltimore as a head coach. McDaniel comes in, he's a rookie head coach. So Larry love you to death, but that was an awful lot of pressure. Even if you do think of him as a young Don Shula, that's an awful lot of pressure to put on a guy like that, because we know what's happened to others that have been, mentioned in the same sentence as Don Shula. So that's my take on the season. I think we're going to pull out a win on Sunday, but I think if we win 10 games, I don't think we make the playoffs. If we win 11 games, we're in as a wild card.
I will say, though, when you're touching on what you just said, if things start to go south really quick, you're going to hear 2 words start coming up: Sean Payton.
Lamar Jackson.
And Sean Payton.
And Sean Payton, yes. And maybe, we might hear 2 more words. Well, 4 more words. It'd be Tom Brady and front office.
Oh man. Say it isn't so.
I know. Once a Patriot hater, always a Patriot hater, right? Whether or not he's playing for the Buccaneers now or wants to come to Miami. But yeah, I think that's the problem. I think we're going to see very early on, either this is going to be a great season and Mike McDaniel is going to be a coach for several years or maybe even longer with us, and we're not going to have roster turnover, or we struggle early. It's going to be a conversation about Lamar Jackson, Sean Payton, and God only knows what's going to happen at that point.
And if we come out and we win Sunday and then we beat Baltimore, but then we come out the next 2 weeks against high-powered teams like the Bills and the Bengals and we lose, they're going to say, "Oh well, it was nice," but
but here we go right back to mediocrity. Yeah.
And
the only thing that's going to keep us from a 500 season is the fact that you can't go 500 in a 17-game season. It's mathematically impossible. Well, actually, no, take that back. It is mathematically possible.
You got a tie.
8-1. Yeah. So I probably just jinxed us. We're probably going 8-1. At least I'll win the over and under in Vegas on wins.
I'll remember this show at the end of the season if that happens.
You won't remember this show. You will remember me, and I will be hiding in Las Vegas going, he's coming to get me.
As far as just wanted to touch on the injury report that I looked at, as far as the Dolphins, they have the following guys questionable. Raekwon Davis. He popped up with a knee injury.
Yeah.
Eric
always
Rowe.
popping up with some injury on the Dolphins. That's another problem with us.
Eric Rowe, something about a pectoral injury. But both are expected to play. They said they're questionable. Both said they feel really good. So we'll see what happens. Van Ginkel, questionable with that appendectomy he had. Savon Ahmed has a heel issue, but we're pretty deep at running back, so that's not really an issue. He wasn't going to play much that day, if at all, anyway.
No, he wasn't.
If he was even active. And that tight end Tanner Conor, who isn't going to get really any playing time anyway.
Not going to get many snaps anyway.
The three key ones I saw on the Patriots are Jacoby Myers is questionable, their number one receiver. Their one defensive back, Sean Wade, who he was a highly touted guy out of Ohio State. I don't know how he ended up on the Patriots, but he's of name. And then Isaiah Wynn, offensive tackle. And with an offensive line like theirs that's pretty, I don't want to say banged up, just not, as stellar as it was last year.
Yeah, not as stellar as it's been in years past, obviously. Yep.
There could be some severe openings for some severe pressure on Mac Jones.
Well, we got to get after him. Like I said, I'm thinking we're going to get after him early, and then the Patriots will do like they usually do. They'll settle down. They'll mount a comeback, but we'll win it in the end. Well, Rodney, great having you on this year as a co-host permanently. Hopefully we'll have John back on with us next week. And
thank you for having me. Thank you for adding me to the show. I'm having a great time. I love talking Dolphin sports with you, John, and the rest of the internet community. And I'm looking forward to hopefully what's a really good season. And hopefully every week we have a show where we start to finish, we're smiling.
I hope so. Yeah. Because certainly last year we were hoping that was going to be the case. And every week we were just like, well, we looked like Dave Wanstedt walking the sidelines back in the day. So we don't want the Dave Wanstedt look anymore. And hey, Dave, if you're ever watching this show, love you, man. Dave's a great dude. He's a great guy.
He is.
And he really did a good job down here. His philosophy of, it was Jimmy Ball. We're going to run the running back to death. And that didn't bode well with when Ricky Williams. We all know what happened. But anyway.
Yeah, we do.
Back for another exciting season here. Miami Dolphins football. I'm Brad Michaels along with Rodney Quick. This is Dolphin Radio and now Dolphin TV. We'll see you next week, hopefully with a W in the column.
Take it easy, guys.